Wrapping up this past week's game and then jumping around to practice yesterday in preparation for Duke. Obviously a team that has done a really good job to start the season. Tops in the conference in several categories, real critical ones, particularly the run game, keeping their quarterback clean, least sacks allowed, as well as being one of the teams that holds their opponents the fewest points defensively. So really good football team. I'm looking forward to a great opportunity. Questions, please.
Coach, what have you seen from Duke on tape that really tells you that you really need to prepare in a certain way to get on?
Well, it's a really good football team. Obviously, it starts up front. Their offensive line has done a good job blocking for both their quarterback and their running backs. They do a lot of stuff up front. You know, they'll pin and pull you, inside zone, outside zone, gap schemes. Their offensive line, they play together. Very smart group of guys. You could tell that they've gelled really well. Not sure exactly how much time they have spent together, but they do a really good job. And their running back, he creates stuff as well. He really sets up runs well, and he has the ability to put a foot in the ground and reverse the field. Their quarterback is an exceptional player. I really feel that strongly about him. He can make the tight window throws. He can take off with the football. When it's not there, he can extend plays. He's very smart. He doesn't make mistakes. Very balanced offense. Their defense, they have a really good grasp of their scheme. You don't see guys out of place. You see guys playing hard, creating turnovers. I think from a turnover margin standpoint, they're tops in the conference. To get guys on the ground, I mean, we really had an opportunity to close out last week's game in a strong fashion, albeit a penalty prevented that from happening. So all in all, just really impressed with watching them on film.
After a game where you guys are penalized like you were Saturday, how do you respond to practice? Like, what's the approach?
Well, directly and bluntly. There's no way to mask that. I mentioned a little bit of that this morning. You know, that's a lack of, a lot of things showed up that for 3 quarters, maybe a little bit more, where we were doing really, really well. And then that aspect was not a positive. And that's lack of discipline, focus, technique, fundamentals, laziness, and just, again, I mentioned before, just a flat out disregard for playing football the way it's supposed to be played. And at the same time, you know, sometimes there are aggressive penalties that go with that, so can't lump them all together. But either way, always directly and bluntly. So.
Mario, the passing game has taken off, obviously. What's Tyler doing specifically to make that happen? And the second part of the question is, the receivers have more size than Rambo and Harley from last year now, a couple of them now. What's the difference having that size for Tyler to throw to?
Well, it starts with Tyler in terms of the improvement in the passing game. Credit to Coach Gaddis, the rest of the staff, too, just changing things, right? Having to adapt to personnel and personnel and depth issues and whatnot that come with the rigors of football. And then using different skill sets differently. That's what it comes down to. The supporting cast deserves a lot of credit. But again, it starts with Tyler. Tyler really has taken ownership, has taken preparation to a new level, and is playing great football for us. The supporting cast has stepped up. Guys like Colby Young have been mentioned in offense. Mike Redding, I know he missed last game. We're hopeful that he'll be ready to roll. Obviously, Rashard Smith's play has really taken off in a big-time way. So the supporting cast has done really well to make sure they're in the right spot, where they're supposed to be, how they're supposed to get there. So the timing and precision of the passing game has improved. Some of the protection stuff has improved as well. Your other question was size. Receiver-wise, last year, I believe, 85 to 88 of the production was the combination of, I believe, Rambo and Harley, Restrepo, may have been Colby, I forget. It's somewhere in there. So you got a Keyshawn being the other one, you know. So manufacturing that type of production requires a couple things, right? Guys got to step up. You got to develop guys, and then come game time, guys got to show up and play at a high level. So. And a good number of those things are occurring at a good level where we're improving.
I'm not like an expert in this stuff like you are, obviously.
You're not?
I'm going to preface it with that, but this is the question. the offensive line, it appeared from the outside that they were a really good run blocking group early on. Now it appears they were a really good pass protection group, and it sort of flip-flopped. Am I missing something? Did something happen?
No, you're not missing something. You know, we ran the ball well early in the season. We've been a little bit dinged up too. You know, certainly that factors in it. That factors into it, as well as, you know, Will Mallory, you know, he's been healthy. He should be healthy. Elijah Arroyo is a big part of the run game as well. And, our running back, we just haven't been in sync in the run game, okay? And that comes a little bit with us. We got to do with the run game what we did with the pass game. We made it much more efficient. We certainly have invested time into it. It's starting to, there's spurts here and there where it's starting to look like it did early in the year, but not nearly as consistent. You know how much pride we take in that and doing it the right way. So we have to improve. That's the bottom line, but
How did you feel about the defensive performance? The longest play given up was 27 yards, which obviously was way down from the previous couple.
Well, I really liked it when it was 20-0, and then, we came a little bit out of sorts. We helped them sustain 2 drives with really unnecessary penalties, right? Immature penalties that must be eliminated for us to be really successful. But I don't want to focus on the negative part. You had a really good question. They played very well up front. Were able to take control of the line of scrimmage. Pressure on the quarterback. We were much more, snug up in our coverage as well. Our rules and playing them out and our communication has improved as well. And it'll be tested this week because this week you go against an offensive line that has run the ball better than anybody else in the conference. They have protected the quarterback better than anybody else in the conference, and they have a dynamic quarterback. So all that stuff will be tested.
When you're down pass rush, obviously Mesidor got a bunch of sacks, but it seemed like the group as a whole played well together if they were down protecting the quarterback. What do you like about them?
Cade's been better, Cade's a little bit more discipline in our rush lanes, but not to where it needs to be. There's still some things that we need to correct and fix. We're getting pushed in the pocket. When you push the pocket back, you're able to, constrict those edges and prevent things from bouncing, escaping, and being extended. So the push in the pocket is certainly better. We play a lot of guys. We do. We make sure we get some fresh bodies in there. So can't emphasize enough the play of Darryl Jackson. A guy that's performed really well. Jafari Harvey continues to do well, but all those other guys that complemented the edges done a good job. Mitch Agude, Elijah Roberts, Chance Williams. Those guys have played good football.
I think you touched a little on Jakari after the game on Saturday, but obviously that's a new, I think you guys tried to do it once, maybe got a false start early in the year, but that's a pretty new wrinkle, it seems like, for you guys with him on short yardage. Is that something you guys have been trying to kind of work to get him ready to do that, or where did that idea come from?
Well, we've always had packages like that. It was just the right time to use it. Felt it was, and we also had struggled in some of our short yardage situations, and we're looking for just something a little bit different, right? The stuff that we had been working and trying didn't succeed, but had been successful for us for such a long time. So you could sit there and just say, hey, or you could adapt, and so we chose to adapt and found something that, could help us.
And for a freshman quarterback, obviously, theoretically, at some point, years down the road, maybe be the guy here. How much does it help just to get him into a game?
He's a stud, man. And he's a great, his story is one of a kind now. That's a tremendous human being, and he's an elite competitor too. That guy gets after it like relentlessly in the weight room and the workouts and whatnot. And he's got a real bright future here.
Is there a balance with the red shirt situation with him, or is it kind of all hands on deck?
I don't know if you can maintain much balance anymore with the way college football is. So we'll see. We always keep track of that, and when it gets to crunch time, we make decisions that are good for all parties involved, right? So, but we're not quite there yet, and we'll see as we get closer and closer to that time.
Mario, Frank Watson, he's also emerged recently, doing real well.
Yeah, he deserves to be mentioned. He deserves the praise that he has received. Frank really, number one, again, exceptional young man, works really hard, local guy, and is really coming into his own. Big body guy, long guy. Made some big catches over the last couple of weeks, and then the biggest one was that third and 8 catch, the dig route. Because Tyler, first of all, that throw that Tyler makes now, that special throw, it's right on the money, but you still got to catch it, and he did, and kept the sticks moving. So, really proud of Frank, and expect him to continue to get better.
Now that it's the mid-season, you guys do like scrimmages on Fridays with the young guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you shed light on who's flashing during those sessions?
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put it all together for next time for us to meet, because we look at it and we graded pretty quickly, and a lot of guys have showed up. I mean, early in the year, Kobe Young was part of that because he still had to learn the system, so he had to run 24 plays every Friday. And what you want out of that is that by mid-season, you have anywhere from 4 to 6 players that are contributing on teams and some other stuff. I mean, early in the year, we would even have Wesley take reps there because it's an extra 16 to 24 reps. Now, when I say scrimmage, we're in shells and I'm sorry, they're in full gear, but we are in thud mode. We're not tackling to the ground, but it's reps. And we could teach all we want on the board. There's no teacher like the repetition, right? And so those are 2 guys that come to mind right away that have really gotten better and improved.
As a head coach, have you ever coached a team that's had this many injuries? Are you learning from it, and how are you dealing with it?
Well, injuries happen in football. You know, some of them were pre-existing things, some of them were things that just happen and you can't avoid. How do you deal with it? You keep rolling. The ball's going to still be placed on the tee at 12:30 on Saturday.
Mario, just not going through everybody, but Will Mallory, I mean, I know that Peoples was ejected for targeting. It looked like he got hit in the shoulder. How is he? Do you expect him to play right as of now?
He looks good, but we always run protocol, you know, so I'll let the doctors handle that, and, you know, we're hopeful that, number one, his health, you know, but he seems very healthy. We'll see.
Let's get up the long-term guys, I guess, like Don Chaney, Xavier.
Don Chaney, I think, is still 4 weeks away. You know, he still has some time. Who else did you mention? Restrepo. I think the last check was 2.5 weeks out from possible return. You know, so who else?
Jacoby and Zion.
Jacoby's got a chance to return this week. Jacoby George. Zion, we're taking it slow. Zion, we're taking it slow. The other one would be Justice Olawashun. His is a little bit more significant, so he'll miss time. Tyreek looks really good. Jakai looks really good. Henry Parrish looks good. Keyshawn looks good. So we'll jump out in front of that, you know. And congrats to Keith Mezo for being, you know, Player of the Week nationally defensively, doing a great job.
I got one more, just
Yep.
Duke, I think they forced like 9 or 10 fumbles
Yeah.
all year. Is that an example of the physicality they play with on defense?
They've done a good job with that, very disciplined too, you know, so I think they understand their scheme really, really well. They have forced turnovers, so product of 2 things, being in the right place, right, knowing exactly where your leverage is, and then actively making an effort to knock the ball loose. They do both those things really well. Okay.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.